Joining me now is Congressman Elijah Cummings of Maryland, sponsor of the new proposal to stop these voter ID requirements, and Paige Gardner, founder and president of the Voter Participation Center, a nonpartisan nonprofit. Thanks both of you very much. Congressman, first of all, what are your chances of getting a federal law through? I mean, I think hasn't Congress kind of wrapped it up? Nobody's getting anything done right now.
No, we're not going to get it done. This is, as a matter of fact, we just left. We won't even go back into session, Andrea, until after Election Day. And it's very sad what these Republican legislatures have done all over the country. And they basically calling something anti-voter fraud laws. What they've done is suppress, it's a direct effort to suppress the vote. You cannot call it anything but that. And so what we did in our legislation is we put forth the legislation as a effort to push back on these laws that are just playing havoc in these various states.
And Paige, let's talk about voter fraud, because there's so much talk about voter fraud from a lot of these separate efforts in different states. I was watching with Rachel Maddow last night, and 30,000 people were potentially purged from the rolls in North Carolina, where President Obama won by 14,000 votes. So 30,000 people were basically told that they were dead. And when the voter registration people, the state officials, looked, so far they've found not one single case of a dead person being registered. So there are groups going far and wide searching for all this voter fraud. How much is this a real issue?
You know, elections should be free, fair, and accessible, and we should be doing everything we can to make sure that voters and voting rights are protected and that it's easier to vote. And there should not be these barriers erected to making it harder for citizens to vote in this country, nor should there be voter purges that hurt citizens who are eligible to vote and should vote from participating on Election Day.
And the so-called voter integrity project, as they call it in North Carolina, is basically tying up the election officials who have the responsibility of setting up the voting machines, making sure that they have a fair election process, and tying them up with this whole search for these allegedly dead voters. Congressman, there's nothing that now can be done, as you pointed out. Congress is just adjourned. While I've been up in New York today, you guys are taking a hike, and nobody's going to try to do anything between now and Election Day.
Andrea, so therefore what we have to do is continue all of these court efforts that are going on, and some of them may very well be successful, some may not. But at the same time, what we're doing in the Congressional Black Caucus and many other churches and organizations throughout the country is trying to make sure that people are made aware of the type of ID that is now required, and trying to make sure that they get registered as soon as possible. It's a shame, because when we look at all these efforts to suppress the vote, it seems like the Republicans are doing it by any means necessary. They're telling organizations like the League of Women Voters that if they don't turn in voter registration forms within 48 hours, that they could be subject to a criminal penalty. They have the early voting provisions in many states that allow people who are working 2 and 3 jobs to be able to get to the polling place early. And, of course, these very restrictive types of IDs that they're requiring, that many people who don't have cars and don't live near ID issuing institutions, they don't have opportunity to even get this type of ID. And as far as I'm concerned, it's unpatriotic, these efforts, and not only that, but as far as I'm concerned, it's criminal, because you're basically denying people the right to vote, which is very fundamental in our democracy.
Well, Paige Gardner, what